Pluta. I'm president of the West Maui Taxpayers Association. It's an honor and privilege to be having you here today. I want you all to know this is not a county meeting or an official meeting of the government of any kind. This is a private meeting of the West Maui Taxpayers Association, co-sponsored by the Rotary Club of Lahaina, whose partnership with us has really been wonderful between the West Maui community, and the Rotary Club has been an excellent partner with us in trying to make necessary improvements to the state of Hawaii. I'll give more comments about that later. Pastor Lucky Ka'ahumano. Pastor Lucky.
Makaukau, kanikapu, elemai kaua. Bless the Lord at all times, and his praise shall continually be in my mouth. For great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised, and his greatness is unsearchable, and his name alone is excellent. From the rising of the sun until the going down of the same, the Lord's name is to be praised. Let us pray. Imau aku kaloko mai ka e o ke akua, a me kalauna. Kua nuka ohana himalele me kako apau. E ko mako maku ilo ko kalani. E pualu ia ko inoa. E iki mai ko au puni. E malamai ia ro make mako lua nei. E liki be ia. E malamai ia makalani la. Mahalo nui loa ke akua. E ka Yesu Christo. May the Lord God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may God lift up his countenance upon all of you and give you peace, prosperity, and pleasure, what he chose you to be, as an instrument of his righteousness to let your light shine for those that cannot see the one we should be looking at. With that said, God bless. Aloha. Now, before we go, you know what this means? Shaka. Yeah, that's for the tourists. For our people, this means aloha. So you all repeat after me. I'll let you know meaning of aloha. Aloha means always, always. Love, over, hate, always. No more Hawaiians, no more aloha, but no more akua, no more love. And being the annual Christmas Santa Claus, God gave me the meaning for ho, ho, ho. So you repeat after me, I'll let you know what ho, ho, ho means. Ho, ho, ho means hearts open, hands out, helping others. We need people that God has chosen like you to be here tonight, because there's so many of our people that need help, and nobody cares except the God that chose you to be here. Sorry, I didn't mean to be preaching. God bless.
All right, thank you very much. Awesome. This is not a county meeting, it's not a state meeting, it's not a government meeting. This is a private meeting. The West Maui Taxpayers does this once or twice a year or more, as may be necessary, to try to bring topics of interest to the West Side community. and bring important information that we all want to know, but we're so busy here in the West Side. A lot of people are living PTP. You know what that means? Paycheck to paycheck. So paycheck to paycheck keeps them so busy that they don't have the time to do a lot of things they would like to do. And that is to attend meetings and so forth. And what we try to do is to have meetings with topics of interest that really the community wants to know, but hasn't had the time and ability to learn about them. So we try to isolate those things down to major subjects and topics, and then make special community presentations. We do that at our annual meeting. This coming year, it'll be January 7th. You know, if you want to mark your calendars for January 7th in 2020, we'll have Senator Baker there, our state representatives, the mayor will be there too, as well as our county council representative, Tamara Paulton, she's here also, and other people of interest. It's going to be community presentations on a lot of subjects that are vital to everybody's knowledge in West Maui. And so mark it down, January 7th. Right now, this meeting is kind of, everybody who's been here last August, who was here in Lahaina last August in 2018? You were here in Lahaina in August of 2018. You know that we had Hurricane Lane, I think it was, and it brought, everybody was expecting wind and rain would be the only problems we had. Huh. Well, as we know, we had a lot more problems than just wind and rain. We had fires and we had floods. And would the rain cooperate with when we needed it? When we had the fires? No. It had to be uncooperative and do it when it wasn't helping us with the fires. It was doing its own thing the way it only decided to do in places that never had problems before, in Honokohau. And it was terrible what it did, the damage it did. Well, as a result of all that, we've been working with the state of Hawaii, and especially the county of Maui. We have been working with the state of Hawaii ever since we decided that they came to a disaster preparedness seminar that we had at the Lahaina Cannery Mall about 2 years ago. At that meeting 2 years ago, it's on the West Maui Taxpayers website, www.westmaui.org, Disaster and Preparedness Seminar at the Lahaina Cannery Mall. And at that meeting, we had all these incredible agencies making presentations. MECO was one of them. The Hawaii Hazards and Awareness Resilience Program by the Pacific Disaster Area was another one. And Red Cross, CERT, the fire department, police department. It's awesome, and it's still there. The whole meeting, you can see it. Click on that Vimeo link, and the whole meeting can come back to you at that website at westmaui.org. So it's a great information source for you. westmaui.org. Remember to check that website out. Lots of information. But we wanted to see what we could do to try to prepare the West Maui community for better. At that meeting, we heard from the Pacific Disaster Center that they had a program called HARP, Hawaii Hazards Awareness and Resilience Program, and it seemed to us that that might be something that we could do. We had a director at that time, Donna Lorenz, who was no longer with us, but we didn't know that. She, before she moved to the mainland, she had no idea she would do that. She said, well, Joe, I'll take this on. I'm a certain person and I really want health and safety. I'll see this all the way through. So we started participating in that program. Unfortunately, she had to go to the mainland and she moved over there and kind of left it with us to take over. We're all volunteers, the West Maui taxpayers. I'd like to have my board members please stand up that are here with me today. We have Joe Park, Rick Nava, where you at? Richard Jarman. Any other board members here today? Okay, thank you. And former board member Bob Pure is here. But volunteers, you know, we get paid a lot. There's a lot of work to do here in our community. We've done some things. You might have seen a little accomplishments booklet. Did you pick up one up out there? If you didn't get one, we've got a little booklet out there that just kind of is a 2-page thing of some of the things the West Maui taxpayers done. 40 years ago, we started the West Maui taxpayers, and I'm responsible for that name. I'm the one that came up with it. Before we were the West Maui taxpayers, we were the Honokauai Kapalua Taxpayers Union. And they wanted me in charge of membership, and I said, well, you're leaving out Lahaina and Kaanapali, and no, it's got to change. It's got to be West Maui taxpayers. And they went along with that, and that's when we started, so about 40 years ago. And I'm still here, thank God. I was the youngest guy then. Now I'm not. I had a big full head of hair then too. Anyway, a lot of things are different now, but I'm still here, and I thank God for that. But through that time, West Maui 40 years ago had only one stoplight over here, and we had lots of problems. And we needed cooperation, and we had willing partners here. Something about our community here is awesome. The West Maui community is unlike any other community I've ever, well, it's the only place I've been for the longest time, so I'm very partial and biased in favor of the West Maui community, because we had all these impossibilities that people said were impossible to do. And I said, well, that may be true, but I got faith, and with God, all things are possible, so we're gonna start doing the best we can. And next thing you know, we did all kinds of things. We had cooperation from the county government, we had cooperation from the state government, and we, together in unison, made partnerships where we did things that were thought impossible to do. But rather than go on and on about all that, this is not a sales pitch about that, but we've got accomplishments booklets that talks about that, and that's on our website. But the West Maui community together has made us do, with God's help, things that people said were impossible to do. And I'm telling you, there's more excitement around the corner about, you're going to hear about some of the major things we've had. The top of our list has always been health and safety. Our isolation here in West Maui has been a source of real concern to everybody. And many of you now, just recently, you've been stuck on one side or the other when the highway's been closed and been unable to get to where you needed to go. Well, that's bad enough when you just want to go home. But if you want to get to the hospital or the doctor or an urgent flight that you got to catch or something of urgency and timing is very critical, now it becomes more than just an inconvenience. It's something that could be life or death. And because of that, we made our efforts to get more fire and ambulance health protection here in the ambulance station. And the county said, yes, we agree, you need that. But get in line, there's other places that need it too. We will help you as best we can. So what happens if we build our own? So, well, that's never been done, you can't do that. But if you did, we'll put it in the budget. We did. We built our own fire and ambulance station in Apili. No one's ever done that. That was so-called impossible, but we did it. We built our own fire and ambulance station, and now it's been saving lives in Apili ever since then. As soon as we got done with that, we said, well, what's the next thing on the list? If we can do the impossible there, well, maybe we can get a hospital here. So 20 years ago, I started an effort with our West Maui taxpayers to get a West Maui hospital. Also said it's impossible, you'll never get a certificate of need. That's impossible, you'll never get it. They'll never get you one because they have a state hospital here, they'll never give you something to compete against it because people have tried and they've all been unsuccessful, and much bigger, powerful organizations than you. Allegedly Mayo Clinic tried, and allegedly UCLA Medical Center tried, and they were both turned down. So if they can't do it, what makes you think you can do it? And I said, well, we got an invisible means of support that we've already done the impossible with. With God's help, we believe we can do it. And what did? We got a certificate of need. We were able to get a developer to do it, and he was building the West Maui Hospital, and we thought, oh, okay, everything is wonderful, and then everything fell apart with financing. So the facility, as far as we know, I'm not a spokesperson for them, but at the last Kaanapali 2020 meeting, we were informed that their financing was a problem with the hospital portion, and they were considering just doing the nursing facility components only. Okay, our hopes were dashed. Then we talked with Michael Remzis, the new CEO of Maui Health Systems. We had a nice meeting with him and phenomenal health providers just last week. And I can tell you, Jim, are you here? Jim's here, there he is back there, as part of that conversation team. There's going to be some exciting news that you're going to hear, not from me, but from them as it'll be coming out. But we've been assured, I can tell you that they're going to have emergency room or 24/7 access to an ER service here in West Maui. Give a big hand to that. I mean, thank God for that. Ever since I heard that, I've been kind of somewhere between 1,000 feet and 2,000 feet. Everybody slow down, Joe. Keep calm. I sweat. I'm so excited. I've never been so excited. I mean, it's incredible when I'm thinking how much I've been praying for this and working hard for this, and it's going to come. So just believe that there's a work of God is happening to save lives here in West Maui, and that's going to be there. We've got a commitment from them. Maui Health Systems, Michael Rembas, the CEO, and 20-some doctors who I met last Friday. Unbelievable. So more to come on that. But let's go back to the other thing. That's the fires and our isolation. Do you know we're the only community It's got a tax value of over $10 billion and an average daily census of over 50,000 people that's over an hour away from emergency medical services. And our economic vitality and importance to the county and the state is off the charts. West Maui is the cash cow for the county of Maui and for the state of Hawaii. And where are we at? On a dead-end street in a cul-de-sac, frequently cut off from vital essential services. So that's a fact. So what are we going to do? We got to try to get everything we need on this side of the island for our health and safety done here, because we can't count on the fact that we're going to get to the other side. So that's our mission. With your help, we're going to continue to do those miracles. But we also have to learn from our mistakes. Sometimes when these things happen that nobody had any idea could happen. Fires, how they started, what happened during the fire, where was there to go, what did we do right, what did we do wrong, what could we have done better? And we understand that an after-action report could be done, and it would talk about these things. And with the excellent cooperation of the mayor and the Maui County Emergency Management Agency, they completed an emergency after-action report. The author of that report's right here in the audience with us. Thank you, Ms. Finkelstein, for writing that. And I had an opportunity to look at that. And it's awesome that they've done such a thorough job. And the mayor has looked at that report and is also working together with them. And he's going to talk about that. Some of the things we're going to do. I'm not going to try to tell you anything more of what he's going to talk about. But that's the primary gist of this, is people want to know, what can we do better? You know, things happened. We want to be prepared. They say it, prepare to plan instead of plan to, if you don't, failing to prepare is planning to fail, something like that. You've heard that word? And we're very confident in the competence of the county of Maui and our mayor, who really loves Maui more than most people I've ever seen. A guy dedicated, all I've known him, he was always at the county fair, being a volunteer there, working as a volunteer for community service projects all over the county, tirelessly working, him and his wife, and now he's the mayor with that same devotion and love for us all. And so please join me in a big round of applause for Mayor Michael Victorino.
Thank you very much, Joe. Aloha, everyone. Aloha. Let me get this cord untangled. I hate sitting behind things. I like to be up front and close. Right, Bob?
Absolutely.
All right, Bob. You know, many of you know me for many years. Out here, I worked at McDonald's, the old Wainehe Street McDonald's. And then I worked down at the Wharf Cinema, the shopping center with a mini Mac, they used to call them. And I stayed out here about 9 years with McDonald's. And then left and went back to the other side and was working out there, and then started working security in 1987 and worked till 2007 when I got elected to the county council. And in the meantime, I still work part-time out here. I've worked 3 jobs most of my life. 3 jobs. Never complained, never got a handout. Why am I telling you this? Because I'm a guy that believes you take care of your destiny. No government, no private, no nonprofit will dictate what happens, but you will. And that's what this is all about tonight. I've been stuck out here, like many of you, because I worked out here for some 28 years. So I know what fires mean. I know what accidents mean. I mean, I've gone home at 2 o'clock in the morning after working all night and got stuck and sat in my car till the sun rose. I got it, guys, I got it. I know, I don't wish that on anybody, but you worked in security with me, right, Harold? And you knows what I'm talking about. But I'm not complaining. We did what we had to do and the best we could. So when I came into office, one of my concerns is really the inaccessibility of West Maui. Not realizing that South Maui could be the same way. Never thought South Maui would be cut off. I mean, you got North Kihei Road, you get Mokulele or Maui Veterans Highway, whichever one you want to call it. You know, you got options to get in and out of South Maui. But as you all well know, back in April when we had that big fire, they were cut off. Okay, so it happened. So I'm like, whoa, this is getting bad. And how many, somebody can give me an idea how many acres you think have burnt this year alone? Does anybody want to give me a guess?
6,000.
6,000? 10,000? 26,000, too high. Some 23,000 acres have burnt. You're close. You're close. Because I know Tamara is telling you the answer, but she's not supposed to know the answer. No, 23,000. 23,000. Remember, we had 9,300. We had 5,500. We had 4,800. Those were the three big ones, right? But there is a whole mess of small ones, especially the one up here was almost 1,000. And those people who lived in Kana Ridge and along the Pilihau and Honokawai and all that area, they thought they were going to be burnt out, right? And so, let me stop by saying right now, I want to thank unequivocally the emergency management team, the emergency responders, both fire, police, and all of them. Let's give them a big hand. I mean, they are the professionals, you know. They are the ones that are out there each and every day protecting your welfare and your health. That's what Joe talked about, right, Joe? But more importantly, we have not lost one home in these fires, and I'm talking about you guys' fire last year. Not one structure has been majorly damaged, and we have not lost no lives. Look what's happening in California. Okay? We got to praise the good Lord, so say thank you, Lord. And whether you believe it or not, say thank you, Lord. All right. Reverend, I'm not trying to take your job, so don't get nervous. Don't get nervous. Yeah. No, but I am. You know, really, we can smile about that. Yes, it's inconvenient. Yes, it caused challenges. But what if we had lost a life or two, or we had somebody's home burned, like what happened up here at Laniapoko and all that? How would you then feel? All those guys that go, up in the valley that lost their homes, how would you feel? I went there the next day after the fire. I saw what happened. I went over to Kimo Faulkner, and he took me around. And he told me what happened. He showed me what happened. It was devastating because you lost your home. You lost your belongings. And more important, you have a sense of insecurity there. And you know what? That's not something you want to ever feel. None of us want that. So, with all of what's been going on, it's been a real challenge for me to focus on one thing, but I promised Joe and promise you all are here. Oh, no, I promise. The promise, bad word, right, Mr. Michael? No promise. Commit to you folks to make sure we have the best communication. We're learning from our mistakes. Set out early when you know something's happening, so that we're ahead of the curve, not after the fire comes down. For example, this last one, I ordered evacuations very early. I know some people say, you gotta be nuts. But you know what? There was only 2 roads in and out of that whole subdivision, and I couldn't wait. You know, there wasn't a lot of possibility if that fire came down, raging, and hit those homes. I didn't want people scrambling like for their lives. So I'm sorry, I did it. So if you're one of those that I moved out and you're unhappy, come see me, because I rather caution on the side of safety than anything else. I did that in Maalaea. I did that in other areas. I evacuated early. Some people say, you didn't have to do that. But it's better to be safe than sorry. Because I cannot replace lives. I cannot replace anxiety if you're stuck in a fire. Okay? So I'm never, and as long as I'm here, I'll guarantee you, I'm going to make calls very early, and I'm always going to make it on the side of safety. I'm sorry. And if you don't like it, find me another mayor. I don't care. So, you know, I'm being honest with all of you. I really am. Okay? Secondly, I always look at what our emergency services personnel, our emergency service staff, our team, what they recommend. What are they seeing? What are they experiencing? What are they thinking of? Because it's important for them to tell me, so I make a good, rational, logical decision. Because it's your well-being that I'm looking at more than anything else. It's for you, your sake. Whether your children, seniors, or anything in between. I'm looking out for your well-being. Okay? Thirdly, I don't want to ever put our emergency personnel in harm's way. You know, I've told them this straight when they're fighting the fire. If this fire breaks through and heads for that house, and you have to put yourself between them and the house and put yourself in harm's way, guess what I told them? You want me to be honest with you? I told, let it burn. I can replace a house. I cannot replace a life. If you don't think that's good, that's fine too. But that's my feeling. I've been there, and I don't want somebody else to ever get hurt, or somebody else. And I don't want to go to anyone's house to say, I'm sorry you lost a loved one because we weren't prepared, or they didn't have the proper equipment, or I told them to stay in harm's way to protect that house. Sorry. That's not my Victorino, and you'll never get that out of me. I have too many family and friends that are not only in the fire department, but in other safety areas, and I treasure their lives like I would treasure yours. Now, to save a life, that's different. That's a different scenario. But I'm talking a structure. I can replace that structure, but I sure can't replace you, ma'am. She's too beautiful to replace anyhow. I'm sorry. You guys was getting heavy. I could feel the tension. Relax, everybody. I like to make jokes about things because I learned when people are carefree and their heart is free of stress, they listen. When they got too much stress, they start tightening up and they don't hear what I'm saying. Okay? So that being said, those are important points. Now, let's get to West Maui. My plan of action is 3 things. The first thing is to make sure we have enough firefighting equipment and personnel out here. We've got 2 stations. And now we're talking of hopefully one day in a not too distant future, number 3. Can I announce that? All right, Joe. Because he took my thunder about Mike Rambis, because Mike and I had met about putting an emergency room out here. I said, Mike, that would be the way to solve the problem, is having that so that we can take care of emergencies. And then if we need to transport, we can bring in a helicopter or we can transport them out. But without the emergency service to stabilize, to get them right, it's really hard. And I can tell you, as a security officer in Kaanapali, at both the Western and Kaanapali Ali, I've sat there for 45 minutes with somebody that broke his neck in the surf, trying to pull them out safely, at the same time worrying that I would damage him forever. And today he is a paraplegic. He is. But his family and him, when I went to the hospital to see him, said, thank you for everything you did. You did the best you could. Made me feel better, but not great. I lost a 6-month-old baby. As a security officer, was called to a room because this baby was turning blue. I rushed up there. I did every little thing I knew, everything I was taught. And when the fire department arrived, they looked at the baby. They said, pack this baby up. We got to get on. We're losing him. And do you know, my heart just really, she was like a Japanese doll. I mean, just a little, like my grandchildren. And when they took her, in my heart of hearts, I knew that probably she wouldn't survive. But I prayed, God, you can't take a little one. Not fair. Take an old man like me, but not someone who has never had a chance to live. And that night they called back, and she had passed. What we found out, she had a very rare occurrence. Her, this chest bone here did not develop. So what happened? Her intestines wrapped around her heart and choked her heart off. I didn't know that. I mean, I was doing everything I knew, compressions, the whole 9 yards that I was taught. And the firemen did the same thing, and when the EMTs came, they did the same thing. And it was rare. But I went home that night, and you asked my wife, I cried like a baby because I didn't save that baby. I blamed myself for a long time. And I still, when I talk about it, I get chicken skins and I feel hurt that I didn't save that baby. It was my fault. It was my fault. It took me a long time to get over that. And I found other people at work and another co-worker that had passed away and he'd been dead for 4 or 5 hours, and I found him in a room, and I've had all of that kind of stuff happen to me. I understand it, but when it comes to children, I have a hard time. I'm sorry. I never will accept that. But I learned that maybe if we had an emergency room here, maybe, just maybe. I don't know if this case could have, but maybe. And so that's why I agree with you, Joe. And the county, I've supported when you went with the hospital, right? Every time you ask me, money, support, and I will do the same thing. And I'll make sure the council supports it. I will make sure every entity in this town supports it. Because you do deserve it and need it, and we will make it happen with your help. And I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to get emotional. I'm supposed to be strong, you know. But that's not the way life is. Sorry. Anyhow, all right, so that would be one of my top priorities, is getting emergency services here. So that when we have brush fires or when we have accidents and you need help, it's here, right here in West Maui. You don't have to get to the other side. The second area I'm going to look at, and I will be talking with the state as well as the county, and the council is so willing to spend money, so I'm not worried about expenditure. We'll get the money. Is to have an ambulance, not an air ambulance on this side of the island. We need that. We need one here that could cover here and possibly Molokai. One on the other side that can cover Central, other parts, maybe Lanai. But with 2 helicopters, we would have good coverage at least for the island of Maui and for our sister islands, Molokai and Lanai. We do need that. So I'm working on a plan right now. I'm going to ask the state for assistance, what the cost is. We'll figure it out. But what is a life worth? Can anybody give me a number? No price. You got that right. It's priceless. You know, like the commercial, it's priceless. Well, life has no price on it. You know, I don't care who you are and what you are. You know, so that's something I'm working on as the second phase of this. The third phase is to have equipment and supplies stationed on this side. Okay? Right now we brought some carts out here, cots and stuff like that. But we need to have someone or somewhere to store and have a container where all these supplies can be readily available for us. So that when we have to open up the Lahaina Civic or one of our churches or anywhere on this side, we have supplies here. We don't have to bring them in from the other side. Whether the road is open or not doesn't make a difference. It takes time to bring supplies over. And so that's why it's very important we do that. So that's something that I assure you it's going to be in my budget. And again, the council is very generous, so thank the council, because they're not going to say no, because if they say no, I'm going to come back see you guys and put the heat on them, you know what I mean? So, and they're good council members, so don't get me wrong. But if they say no, then you better call them and say, hey, remember what Victorino said that night? You best get and never mind, that's enough. All right, I'm going to get carried away. Sorry. Anyhow, so, wait, no time for question yet. You wait your turn. I know this guy a long time. I have to stop him before you ask the question. You can ask the question in a few minutes, okay? And so, having supplies over here, you know, even like having a generator station here, maybe at up at the Lahaina Civic and all that, so that we can operate properly if power goes out and or, you know, there's a fire and we can't bring in supplies. At least there's some safe shelter. I've got to be honest with you, the hospitality industry has been very generous in helping us in this area. We have food purveyors here that have helped not only West Maui, but even in Central Maui. You know, this community, I'm going to give them credit. The businesses as well as the private sector. People like you and I, the general public. We come out. Mahina Martin, I want to recognize you for all the things you've done for not Mauna Kea, for Kauai, for the Big Island. Thank her for all her and her helpers that do all this great work, you know? You know, we put together waters and stuff, and we sent a whole container over also from my campaign. But that wasn't something I even talked about, did I? Because it was the right thing to do. And that's one thing I love about this community. When it's needed, the right thing is done, Terry. The right things are done. You know, we don't always agree upon things. We may disagree on them and many things. But when the need is there, we step up to the plate. And that's why I'm most proud of Maui and Maui County. So, anyhow, so really putting supplies in the area, making sure that's available, having the necessary ability to bring in help from the outside, you know, even to the point where I know we have helicopters that are willing to come in and bring people in, emergency responders if necessary. They have told me that. They have offered that, and we have done it in the past, and we'll continue to do that in the future. But where can you help me? Or help us, the community? One, your property is a fire hazard if you don't properly take care of it. Fire prevention, 876-4690. Thank you, Peggy. And we'll put that number up tonight and make sure others see it. And Peggy, what you're gonna do is, you're gonna make sure you face the camera the next time when I call upon you. Okay, Peggy? And the halikoa, I got you. Halikoa burns real fast, and those little seeds become like embers that fly somewhere else, you know. So if you got halikoa, like Peggy's waving over there, cut them down. If you don't need them, you don't have goats or anything, like cut them down. You know, get them rid of them. You know what I mean? Seriously, you start first. Fire prevention starts with all of you. If you see a neighbor doing something improper, let the fire department, let the police know. If you see people playing with fireworks that they're not supposed to, wrong time, or playing in dry areas, let the police know. You know, they can't be there instantaneously, but they'll get there as soon as possible. Only you can prevent forest fires. Only you can prevent brush fires. I watch Smokey the Bear. I like Smokey. You know, a lot of things I've told you are very simple, right? Doesn't take rocket scientists to understand this. And I have become known as the fire mayor. I have fought more fires in the last year than I think my predecessor did in the previous 8 years. Not his fault. My fault, maybe. But we need to work together. We need also the idea that when you see an area, or you see your neighbor doesn't take care of their brush and all that other stuff, or if you see the neighbor throwing stuff in the backyard or in somebody else's property, you gotta let us know so fire prevention can come in, check it out, cite them if we need to. Make sure we do the right things. Now, some of the other things that I want to do to prevent brush fires. Right now, we're in the process of buying the old West Maui, or the old MFAC reservoir that's above our treatment plant. We're going to put a pumping system up there, and we're going to pump 3 to 4 million gallons every day, and then start to move it down along the mountainside so we can make what I call green zones. So that we notice a fire, it comes down, so long as it's dry, it's burning like crazy. But as soon as it hits a green area, guess what happened? It kind of fizzles and stops. So we need to put some buffers in, okay? We're also looking at maybe larger buffers when you're talking fire breaks. But I can tell you right now, the winds around here, I saw in Central Maui, Kuilani Highway, on my right side, I was standing by Waiko Road, and I watched the fire jump over the 4 lanes, the medial strip, the 2 side, and cross over to the other side, and the fire was off and running. So that's a pretty, you know, that's a lot of space. That's almost 300 feet or 400 feet wide. The fire, the winds over here, the embers just, I mean, I remember coming here, and the fire had stopped up here, and right next to the gas station, the medial strip had burned. And that was because the wind and the embers fell in there and it burned. Lucky it didn't hit the gas station. Oh, Lord, thank you. You know, so, you know, really, there's a lot of factors. Wind is one of the biggest factors of Maui County. And unfortunately, every time we got a brush fire, I'll be danged if the wind's not strong that day. You know? So, again, we can do a lot in government. You can do a lot as property owners. I am looking at some of the property owners, how they can better prepare their land. But right now, I don't know how many of you drive, but I drove. This is the 3rd time I came in to this week already. No, 4th time. 2 times today. And every time I drive in, all I see is nothing but dry land. All the way up to the watershed area is dry, brown. It's just a fire waiting to happen again. And, you know, and we haven't had rain. This has got to be one of the dry years I can think of. Can anybody else think of a dry year? I mean, those who've lived here for a long time, Pastor Lucky, can you remember a drier year? I mean, really, you know, Hans, you've lived here a long time. Many of you born and raised here. I don't think I can remember a dry year like this. Pardon me? No, I know I had dry years, but dry year like this. When? Oh yeah, that no count. He said, yeah. But you know what we had there? But what, let me ask you this. What did we have back then? Thank you. And sugarcane was green, no burn. Right, and we had the ditches. And they had fire people out there that watched different areas to make sure if a fire started, they called it in, right? Yeah. Yeah, good, yeah, and the cultural burns, right? Because the plantation took all of that. We don't have that today. Yeah, so, let's not talk about what we don't have. Unfortunately, we don't, yeah? No. Yeah, I love your history because that helps others that have not lived here for a long time to better understand. From Okumihami all the way across until you got to past Honokawai was all sugarcane or pineapple fields, right? Right? Kapolo was all pineapple fields, yeah? I'm old enough to remember that. My Uncle Mano Matias lived in Napili when it was the only house in all of Napili Road down that side. 1,000 people, well, no. You're really dating yourself. Enough. But it's a different time, so we know that we have these fire hazards and we've got to do our best. Watch out for suspicious characters because we have arson investigations. We've caught a few people, some of them were homeless, some of them were people that, one guy, 80 acres burned in Kihei because the guy went light his doobie, it burned his hand, he dropped it into the grass, and then he tried to fight the fire and burned himself. So when the police arrived, I'm not exaggerating, when the police arrived, he was there and he said, yeah, it was my fault, I started the fire. I almost couldn't have charged the guy because I felt so bad about, stupid is as stupid does. Well, that was one of those, sorry. But 80 acres burned because of that incident, And that's all next to Maui Meadow. So imagine those people who lived there, the anxiety they went through, right? Simple thing like a doobie, caught, dropped it into the bush, and the bush is so dry, it was going. So, again, so many reasons, I had a tractor breakdown that 5,000 acres burned, And there was somebody, the Waiko fire, we believe was set because somebody had stolen a truck, set the truck on fire, and then the brush around it caught on, and 9,500 acres later, whoops. So, a lot of reasons. So you got to help us, and we got to help you. We need to prepare you better. We got the disaster books out there. Please pick them up. It's really important. Joe and I have talked about the plan they've worked on. We've got to refine it a little more, but we've got a good plan to work on out here. We're trying to improve both our communication by phone, by text, by Facebook, by, what's that? Radio. Because you guys are on the wrong side of the island. I'm sorry, man. I don't have radio on this side. Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry. I just wanted her to laugh. Yeah, but radio, yes, better radio communication. I'm not arguing. And we've sat down with the radio stations and looking to improve the system, but with Kaoi and all the different guys that we need to have online, okay? So I'm not saying it's perfect. I didn't say that. But this last fire, we were much more ready than the one. And the other problem with the fire and the poly, it's really hard when you're fighting a fire and the fire's on top of the mountain and 20 minutes later it just blows right down to the roadway.
No more than 20 minutes or 4 hours.
No, but I saw the thing blew down to the road, blew up, blew down, through the gulches. I watched the fire at the poly lookout. I watched the fire come down the gulch within 20 minutes from the top of the gulch right down. And it was burning on the road. Ask my driver, where's Alan? Alan, tell him we were driving up and down the road and the tanker truck was fighting the fire and the chief got upset because the chief said, Mayor, you're risking your life. What are you doing in here? And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So I've been getting scolding for that too. But that's my kuleana, you know what I mean? Only thing is I take my driver and my other photographer and, Ryan, you're here, Ryan. Where are you, Ryan? Ryan, how much smoke inhalation did you get that day? A lot, and he doesn't even smoke. So I always like to go to the fire to see what's going on, to talk to the personnel so that I understand what their needs are. They need bulldozers, they need airdrops, they need whatever. I make sure no expenses are spared. And by the way, these fires have cost us a lot. Budget amendments are going to the council, and I sure hope the council doesn't complain because it saved your homes and saved homes and lives all around this county. So I'm willing to spend the money to do that. Sorry. I may not get a raise next year, but who gives a rip, right? Right. You laugh about that.
Right now.
What?
Give me a minute now.
Minute? You got 30 seconds.
The radio.
Okay, come in here so everybody hear you. This is Hans Michael.
The cell phone said North Kihei burning, but that was not right. It was burning on top by the windmill going 2.5 miles Waikapu. That's where the fire was. Because I was in Wailuku that morning for pickup feed in Kahalui. And I told my daughter, we can make it. I see the wind was very high and the smoke was down. I worked for Piney Mill in harvesting for 27 years. I saw more smoke than you, Victorino.
No.
But it's all good. But wait, now you wait a minute.
No.
Excuse me.
Let me finish it. You never saw more smoke to me because I came from the Big Island and there was more cane on the Big Island than the entire state put together. Okay, so never tell me what I know. Okay, next. Sorry, I gotta keep Hans in check.
No,
You know what I mean?
but anyway, when we came back, we saw the smoke coming towards the windmill from Wailuku side over into Lahaina. We was 2 gauge before the Pali. We see the fire coming down. I told my daughter, call fire department or 911. You know what the lady told us? We know. She did know nothing because when we came back to Lahaina, take the turn up Lahaina Luna Road, 2 fire trucks came hitting to the Pali.
Well, let me say this, Hans. You're right as far as they knew, and we don't pull assets out of West Maui. It is almost the last of my choices because West Maui is inaccessible. And if I pull assets out of here to go help in the central area, this leaves this place bare bones. Because I have Makawao, I have Kula, I have Paia, I have a number of other Kahalui where I have stations. Kihei has 2 stations. I can move assets around there. I do not touch this, and if I do, that only means it's really bad. Okay? So I can tell you now, I don't like to put assets from West Maui because of the inaccessibility. I don't touch. If anything, I try to bring in, but I don't take out. Okay? So that has been my mandate to the fire department. We don't touch West Maui at all. We use all what we have, and we have enough assets generally in Central Maui to take care of it. I mean, we fought all these fires with what we had in Central Maui. And so I can tell you, I'm not going to bring assets from this side that way. Yeah, but you know what? There was a fire because it had crossed over already. It was at Thousand Peaks. So it had moved. Within 3 hours, 4 hours, it moved all across the mountain. You know, the wind was just gusty. You know, I saw on fire the one that happened from Haleakala down to Pulehu Road, which is almost 4.5 miles. 3 hours, it burned all the way down. When I first got word at 2 o'clock, I saw, and by the way, my office, I oversee almost all of Maui, Central Maui. And every time I see smoke, the first call I make to the fire department is, what's going on? I remember that fire in particular because I was going to Honolulu that evening for dinner, and I had a meeting before that, and I was going to leave at 3 o'clock. 2 o'clock, I saw the smoke because I was walking into the meeting. So I told my staff, please call the fire department, find out what's going on. Got a report about 10 minutes later. It's about 4 to 5 acres burning up by Pukalani, and they have firefighting equipment there. I left at 3 o'clock because my flight was 4 o'clock. I was heading to the airport. I looked up at that mountain, and the fire was already halfway across the mountain. I called again. They said, well, it's out of control and it's burning out of at a very rapid rate. Canceled my airlines, canceled my dinner, went up to Pukalani, watched the fire burn, and watched it burn all the way on to Pulehu Road. By 5 o'clock, it was down to Pulehu Road. Anybody knows Maui, that's almost 5 miles it burned across. The wind was just howling. I mean, literally howling. And it was blowing at least 25 to 30 miles with gusts. And you know what made it bad? I could see rain around Makawao, Paia, all the way out to the ocean. But it never came in. Somebody up there doesn't love us. You know what I mean? Maybe it's me, guys. Maybe it's me. But, you know, I will say that there is a lot to be done. The fire plan we're putting together, I think, will be a good step in the right direction. Tonight, I'm really here, and I have my experts here also. These 2 young ladies came special from the other side to hear what you had to say. You know, because we're trying to learn and be proactive. Moving assets in here is very important. Protecting what we have here is very important. And I will not pull assets out of here to come to Central Maui. Because to me, if I take assets out of here and then something happens behind of us, we can't get them back in here. So you have my assurance, I don't pull equipment out of Lahaina. If anything, I augment and send them in, okay? Then finally, I'll close with this. We have 3 to 4 helicopters that drop water drops. And let me tell you, those gentlemen and those helicopters are the best professionals we have. And even our fire department will tell you that. They do an awesome job. The problem is, as soon as it gets dark like this, we can't use them. And until morning light, we cannot use them. So we fight the fire from dawn to dusk with our helicopters. And when you're up in the mountains, like what's happened back here at what you call Pulelehua and that Kahana area, right? We need helicopters. We can't wait till the fire gets down. Fire breaks will happen. We can't wait till the fire gets down to the roadways or near the houses. But as soon as it gets dark, we can no longer use our helicopters. And I'll say also that I was very fortunate. This fire, like all the other fires, the governor, and this time was the Lieutenant Governor, Josh Green, called me, do you need the Huey? We'll send it if you need it. But it was already at 4 o'clock. By the time the Huey flies in and lands to refuel, it's night already. So I said, I have to wait till the morning and see what happened. As it turned out, we were able to contain the fire and it was put out about midday. And I'm not put out, but it was under control. And we just had to wait a day or two for hot embers to flare up, or if they didn't flare up, we could go with water drops and put them out. So again, our fire department does a great job. I think our emergency management does a great job. We got to work more on our communication, and we are. We have put some implementation, and now I'm taking the issue to say, I got to make the call earlier, then I'll make the call. If I'm going to shut down the highway, then I need to shut it down earlier, then people know. But we also got to let people know that there's a potential the highway is going to be shut down. So if you're going into Kahului or Wailuku at 3 o'clock, and it's 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning, maybe best you get over there just to be on the safe side. Now, to come back, maybe another problem. So I don't know how, but you shake your head, man, but let me tell you, there's no clear-cut, 100% proof way of fighting a fire, because fires have their own life of their own. And you ask those Californians, and they'll tell you that. Tell all those people that have lost their lives in California, I'm proud of what we do, and I will continue to do the best we can. Mahalo, everyone. Okay, Bob, I'm going to give you before somebody else raises their hand. Let's give Bob a big hand for his patience. Come on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
These were obviously serious fires.
Yes.
And my wife and I had the misfortune of being trapped in both of them.
Oh, sorry.
What I want to talk about a little, just briefly, is
Go for Bob.
what I wanted to talk about
There you go.
is communication. The county really needs to do a better job, and I'm sure you agree with me, on communicating. I live here for 18 years, and I'm having trouble finding things out. Let me be specific. I pick up my kids at the airport in the major fire. I pick them up at the airport at 2 o'clock, and I have no idea what's going on. I go on the poly, go back to Lahaina. I'm not moving.
Okay.
I have no idea. Is it an accident? Is it a fire? No idea. I subscribe on my phone to every single county alert, MECO alerts. I get them all the time. I'm not getting anything. So what do? I call up the police department. The police department, you get a voicemail directing you to a road closure line. So I call the road closure line, and you get a recorded message at 9:30. It's 9:30 in the morning. So this message is 9:30 in the morning, and it's now 2:30 in the afternoon. So I know nothing, and the road isn't closed because it's 9:30 in the morning. I call back at 4:30. Same message is still on that machine, telling you nothing. So the entire time, we're not getting any information. Again, I have no idea what's going on. Now, as you well know, there are 2 long lines of traffic from Wailuku and Kahului merging to go onto the poly, and they're not moving.
Right.
One of the suggestions you just received from one of the audience members is the reader boards.
Right.
I think the reader boards are crucial.
Yep.
There's also an even less expensive solution that came up at a meeting that Mahina Martin and I were at many, many years ago. Why don't you have a police officer in either a squad car or a motorcycle with a large megaphone going up and down those lines, telling people there's a major fire, we don't know when the road's going to open, so people know something. I think there's nothing worse than not knowing anything. There's nothing worse than, and I live here, and I'm thinking, how about those people coming off the planes, particularly first-time visitors? So my concern is, and again, I'm sure you agree with me, we need to do a better job with information that's not more than 30 minutes old. Even if it doesn't change, at least have the message updated so we know what's going on. As I say, there's nothing worse than being in a line of traffic, it's not moving, and you know nothing. Obviously, the focus of the county is to fight fires.
Right.
And I totally agree with you, and my hat's off to all of those people that literally risked their lives. But again, as someone who was trapped in both of these, I'd feel a lot better if I knew what was going on.
Thank you. And you're absolutely correct. And I said that we're going to have to work on that. And these ladies are taking notes on not only because they're good looking and they wanted to take notes, but because this is something we were making changes on because we realized the problem, and it's something we need to communicate better on. Whether it's the radio, whether it's Facebook, whether it's the internet, whatever it is, we need to keep the lines open in communication. And we are talking to the police department because I'm not happy because when I called them, I heard the same message. And then I called the chief and said, hey, wait a minute. Aren't we supposed to update it every half an hour to an hour? You said you would make sure that's done, and it wasn't. So I'm working on it right now, and we're looking how we can improve. And maybe we'll have spent a few dollars, but we're going to make sure that at least we can keep both the visitor and the residents of this county informed on what's going on. Okay? So you got my assurance in that. All right. No, Hans, I'm not giving you a second chance. You had 2 chances already. What he's saying is that, without the reservoirs and now the state, the DLNR has been closing down some of them to send water someplace else, right? And that made it very difficult. So that's why we're going to move as exponentially as possible to get that West Maui reservoir up by the treatment plant up and running and get that reservoir so that it be full with water, that, we'll have 3 to 4 million gallons there, and we can continue to pump up there. And when we have major fires, it can cover a lot of area all along West Maui. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a real pleasure and honor talking to all of you. God bless you and aloha.
Thank you very much,
My pleasure.
Mayor Michael Victorino. Well, I don't know about you, but I know that I believe this guy, and I believe that he's going to be doing the things he says he's going to be doing for us. I really appreciate that Charnan and Ms. Finkelstein are here both together from the MEMA office, taking notes and paying attention. They've been working hard towards us in improving our emergency management, and all of you. Now, part of that process is also taking care of yourself. If you haven't seen this excellent presentation, a booklet that Maui Electric Company has about how you can better make your home and your yard safe and take care of yourself, I tell you, it's awesome. It's out there, it's free. And Kuhia Asiu is here from Maui Electric Company, and she's going to give a presentation with them about some of these things that they are aware of that you can do, and that they're working on to make it a better place for us as well. Asiu, give her a big round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Good evening, everyone. Boy, the mayor is a tough act to follow, I must say. I hope I can keep you all awake. But my name is Kuhea Asiu. I'm a community relations specialist with Maui Electric. And joining me tonight is our director of system technology or system operations, Chris Reynolds. And then we also have a special guest speaker that we invited to help make this presentation tonight. And that's Mike Young, and he's from UH Maui College. And I'll say a little bit more about that a little bit later. But we also have in the audience, and she's so famous that her name was already mentioned like 3 times. She's my boss, the Director of Government and Community Affairs, Mahina Martin. Please give her a round of applause. All right, so we're here to present our Hui Up for Resiliency presentation. And we're really excited about this because, we're talking a lot about disasters, preparedness, and we really believe that there is a role for everyone to play in your own personal resiliency and safety and preparedness. We all have things that we can do for us, in our jobs, but certainly at home, we have things too that we have, responsibilities that we have to make sure that our families are resilient. And that's something that we want to help all of you with as well. So we're going to be talking about our system and how that works, what's happening on a daily basis, what's happening during a storm or some kind of event when there are outages going on, how we bring that system back to full restoration, and some of the things that we're doing to make our grid more resilient. And then we're also going to be inviting Mike up to talk about how you can make your home more resilient. We recently invited some industry professionals from the building industry, the home improvement industry, and some local businesses to come in. They are the experts. So we asked them to tell us, what they do to increase their resiliency. And so Mike was one of the folks that joined us and just gave us so much information. We're so excited. He's so awesome. And he also brought this piece of show and tell for later. And so I'm excited to hear from him later. So just to tell you a little bit about Maui Electric, we really got our roots back in the days of King Kalakaua. He was very innovative, very interested in technology. And back in 1881, he actually traveled to a expo in Paris. And he heard about this thing called electricity. And he wanted to meet Thomas Edison. And he actually sat down with him and had a conversation to learn all about it and how he could bring that to Hawaii. And in 1886, he lit up Iolani Palace. And that was even before the White House. It's pretty amazing. But even before then, in 1881, Claus Spreckles, who ran the sugar mill, lit up the mill for the first time in 1881. And that was because he wanted to have 24-hour operations, and electricity and lighting would enable him to do that. Maui Electric opened its doors in 1921, so we're almost 100 years old. We're celebrating 98 years old this year. So I'm not going to talk about all of these numbers, but as you can tell, it's obvious our population is growing by leaps and bounds. And so by 2035, 2045, when we're expected to be at 100% renewable energy, we're going to have over 200,000 people living here on Maui. And that does not include the visitors. Well, we have over 2 million visitors or so every year, and that's probably going to grow as well. And along with that are new projects that need to come about to support all of that. Today we have a lifestyle 24/7. People are using power for their home businesses or sporting events or watching YouTube. So we have a very different lifestyle today, as opposed to what we had back in 1921. So the demand for power is a lot bigger today. So we also have a different lifestyle, but along with that, we also have a changing weather patterns. And you all see that every day. We're having longer periods of drought, heavier rainfall, more severe storms, and that is a pattern that is probably here to stay and probably going to keep going on that trend for as long as we can tell. And so with that, we need to make our grid more resilient and be prepared for all kinds of events that might happen. So here are just some of a few. This was the Maui wildfire. This was the Waikou fire that burned over 9,000 acres from Waikapu all the way to Kihei. And in February, we had a winter ice storm. I don't know how many of you went up to Haleakala, but this is our substation at the top that completely froze over. It's like a scene from the movie Frozen, something that had never happened before. And we had a lot of damage. It took a month to restore this and to get power to the top again. And of course, every year from June through November, we have hurricane season. And so we all know what to expect already with potential hurricane activity. But a lot of people don't realize that after hurricane season, we have the wet season that immediately follows that. And I think we've had a lot of really powerful storms that have come in the wet season when we might have expected it in the hurricane season. So let's be prepared for that. So this is a photo actually from Hawaii Island. This is when Hurricane Iselle hit in 2014. And this is just to illustrate what can happen with trees. Trees are a big issue for us with falling on lines, falling on the ground, and these are albizia trees, and we do have them here too. They're highly invasive, they're very brittle, they fall down easily, and when this happens, our crews have to wait till it's safe for trees to stop falling, and to partner with the county and the state to help us clear those roads so that we can get to work on restoring power. And this is also why we really emphasize to people to make sure you plant the right trees in the right place. And I'm really glad that somebody brought up about halekoa. Halekoa is a very highly invasive species, not from Hawaii. And you know, it's a great tree wherever it's native to, but we just encourage people to plant the right trees in the right places so that they don't cause damage like this. Every year we spend $3 million or thereabouts on vegetation management. Sounds like a lot of money, and it is. Is it enough? Not nearly. And this is why we really depend on private landowners, residents, you know, to plant the right trees, but also to maintain them. You know, Maui Electric cannot possibly have enough money to maintain everybody's vegetation on their private property. This is again where we all have a role to play in our island's resiliency. And sometimes when power is out, we have, you know, lines and poles that are in some remote areas, and we can't simply drive to them. So our crews sometimes have to hike with equipment for miles to get to where they need to go to fix equipment. And sometimes we need the help of helicopters to fly poles and people and other equipment in. And that's if it's a good day. On a highly windy day, we certainly aren't going to be sending people up in the air in a helicopter. So, you know, if there are delays to restoration, sometimes this is what's happening. So we are working to build more resilience into our system. And this is one of the projects that we are trying out. It's called the Hendrix cable. And it's an insulated cable that is made to withstand trees falling on it. And so it's at a pilot stage now. We're trying it in Olinda, Maui, and some other places on Maui and Molokai. And this was actually the first sort of windstorm that we had in this area. And you can see that tree. Okay, this is really bad. The tree that fell on the line here, and the power, there were no outages, there were no lines down. So, you know, that's telling us that we're showing some good early success. So I'm gonna hand it over to Chris now to talk about our system.
Good evening and thank you. I'm just going to give a brief overview about how Maui Electric operates. Just kind of some pictures up front. That's our map board in dispatch up on the top, kind of giving us a quick view of how the system is doing in a single glance. And the bottom is actually some of the images for the controls at the Maalaea power plant. So as a utility, we're not connected to anybody. It's a long way to California, Oregon, even to Mexico. So there is no underground line giving us power when we need it. We also don't have power going to each island. Each island needs to produce its own power for its own customers. This is kind of a quick diagram of showing where generation is on Maui. Right now we're averaging about 38% renewable energy coming into our system. At any given time, that kind of goes up and down, and we've measured a peak of 80% renewable energy. It was, even though it's just for a few minutes, that's quite a bit of PV and wind integrating into our system. And we've actually had to turn most of our generators off, and the ones we had on, they were running at their absolute lowest minimum. We talk about generation, and so we have two categories for generation. We have firm generation and as available. Firm generation, right now for Maui, is basically the diesel generators we have on Maui. Those are the generators we can start up and shut down when we need. We can run them as long as we want, and then we can turn them off when we don't need them. As opposed to as available, that means they're driven by the wind and the sun. So if there's sun out, the PVs are producing power, and if there's wind going, then the wind farms are producing power. It's tricky to kind of balance between the two, because the wind fluctuates up and down and clouds come over and they pass over the island. To let you know, one of our constraints is sometimes it takes a long time to start a generator. Some generators we can start in 10 minutes. There's only probably 5 of those. The other generators take 40 minutes. Other generators could take over an hour to start by the time they heat up, build up enough steam to actually start producing electricity. So it's always a delicate balance between when we can turn those on and accepting as much renewable energy as we can. Basically, this is a model of how our system used to work with traditional generation. Power generated at a power plant number 1 up there, goes across high voltage lines. Number 2, high voltage on Maui is about 23 to and 69,000 volts, as opposed to the 120 volt that comes in an outlet in your house. It goes to a substation. These substations are kind of around the island, serving different areas. And these substations will take that high voltage from 69,000 volts down to 12,000 volts, and then bring it into your neighborhoods. Where just outside your home, we have small little transformers. We'll actually change that from 12,000 down to the 120 and 240 volts you need for your home. Of course, we've got some underground lines in there kind of doing the same thing. And then, of course, the secondary wires they talk about, that's actually the drop to get from the street to your house, and whether that's overhead or underground. So right now, we have about 240 miles of transmission lines. We have about just under 1,500 miles of distribution lines. And we've got closer to 22,000 poles out there, just for Maui County alone. People ask the difference between, it's like I have about 1,500 miles of distribution. That's kind of split. It's probably half of it is underground and then half of it's still overhead. So basically, how do we control the system? Well, we have computers to do that. So we have an energy management system, and part of that energy management system is a module called SCADA, Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. Basically, we can control 92% of the system load on Maui just through sitting in our office working on these computers. We'll talk a little bit about power restoration and what Maui Electric does during these events. You know, when the power goes out and there's a big storm, fires, hurricanes, everyone sees these trucks driving around. Big white trucks, guys in yellow shirts, climbing poles, up in bucket trucks and such. But really, it's a full effort from the entire company. And these are just some of the people behind the scenes kind of supporting that field work to get the power back. Safety, we have safety division here. They're at the top because they're basically responsible to making sure everybody is behaving in a safe manner. That means having the right tools, the right equipment, even getting the proper amount of rest. Because you don't want a guy out there working in high voltage lines who hasn't slept for 48 hours. We have GIS mapping, so these are the people helping us direct us to areas to know where we go to make repairs. We have land management. These are people getting us access into private lands, into state, into federal lands, so we can continue on with our restoration. We have warehouse, driving supplies out to the field and actually picking up all the broken stuff and bringing it back. We have communications. Those are the people kind of keeping the cell phones, the radios, and all that wireless communication going for the employees. Customer service. Those are the people answering the phone calls. We can get up to 200 phone calls in an hour. So we have a group of people just answering the phones, trying to give out as much information as they can. We have engineers and planners. These guys are critical because when something goes down, we got to figure out how to get power there. We may have to route it somewhere else. We may route it completely. We may have to go up to Pukalani, all the way down to service some people out in KNI. But either way, we'll reroute power any way we can to get that service back up. We have community relations. These are the people actually working with the county in the emergency management agency. They're kind of down in the old civil defense room. You know, and we're giving updates. We're kind of letting everybody else know what we're doing and how we can help. And basically, who needs to be restored first and where those priorities are. And last but not least is finance, because they're the guys that are grumbling, but they have to write the checks anyway to get everybody paid. So storms coming. So what do? We have situational awareness. We monitor conditions, and when things get really bad, then we activate. So one of the first things to do is called safety first. So our guys respond. They'll respond immediately. They don't even need to wait to be called out. They will come to work and report in. They'll go out in the middle of a storm and start fixing things. We got to tell them to come back because we've had a lot of trees come down. We've lost trucks. We've lost a lot of materials just because we're trying to fix things right away instead of letting the storms pass. So a lot of times we hold them back. We say, wait till the wind stops, wait till the trees stop falling, and then we can go out and make some serious repairs. We do a damage assessment. We do it multiple ways. We can fly helicopters. We actually have certified drone pilots now. We actually depend upon customers to call us in and let us know that they're out of power. And then we can help prioritize this and get those customers back up. We repair the main transmission lines and substations. Without that, we can't get the power to those substations. We can't get it out to your neighborhoods. Then we go in and repair that distribution circuits. Those are the 12 kV that come into your neighborhood and service your streets and communities. Then we come back and we do the repair for the service line and restoring power to individual customers. Our whole goal is to restore as many customers as we can in a single crack. So people say, oh, how come, I live out Pueblo and you guys are always last one to come out and fix my service. Well, you're always favoring people in Wailuku, and Kihei, and Lahaina. So it's like, no, we're trying to get the most people up as soon as we can. And then we can start addressing these smaller areas of pocket customers. And when it's all said and done, we got everybody back on, and we did it any way we could. We're routing power all over the place. We've got some broken equipment. The pole may be leaning, but it's still good, or still holding the lines up. So it could take us 2 or 3 weeks to come back and fix everything after everyone's power has been restored. One of the things we do focus on is critical infrastructure. Places like the hospital, police station, the airport, the harbor, county water system, and the county wastewater system. Those are all critical for safety and health. So those are the areas that we try to focus on when we're working through our restoration. As I mentioned, we have a customer call center. So we have a whole group of people dedicated to answering phones. So we're constantly feeding these operators updates on what's going on. So when people call in, and then we can say whether we actually have people in the area or they're being addressed right now, or we know about it, and when crew breaks free, we can actually send them to that particular area. And as I said, they can handle up to 200 calls per hour. This is just a snapshot of our dispatch center. So basically, this is where we can actually see and control most everything. And we can see Maui, Molokai, and Lanai as well in this center. That's the number, 871-7777. You can call us. Someone's always there. We have at least 3 people in there, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Holidays, Super Bowl, doesn't matter. It's always staffed. And you can call them for whatever reason. You can call them because you're out of power, because your lights are blinking, you're hearing funny noises, you're curious about what's on that pole outside your line. 3 o'clock in the morning, you're lonely, you don't have anybody to talk to. These are the guys. They don't have anyone to talk to either, so you can call them. So, Maui Electric, we really don't have the resources of the line crews to handle if a hurricane like a Cat 3 hit Maui and just plowed it over. So what we do is we belong to these groups. We belong to WRMAG, which is a Western Regional Mutual Assistance Group. So Hawaii, Oregon, Washington, California, Nevada, Idaho, we all belong to the Association for Utilities. And if we need help, all we have to do is pick up the phone and we say, we need help, send people. Send people, send linemen, send trucks, send materials. And we get them. So, of course, coming from the mainland, it's going to be put on a barge. It's going to be a couple weeks, but we're going to get them. So, an example, here's our crews on the left-hand, or you're on the right-hand side of the screen. They're getting a briefing, because actually we're sending them over for Hurricane Zell, and they're looking at doing restoration in the Puna area. So, and that's pictures of our trucks being loaded on the barges and being sent over the Big Island. So, sounds funny, but resiliency, it begins in home. So, what can you do to make your home more resilient? We've started talking to building industry experts, and one of them here is tonight, and that's Mike Young. And I'd like to introduce him to help explain what you can do to build resiliency in your own home. So please welcome Mike.
Hello, everybody. So, where do homes typically fail in severe weather? Lack of hurricane clips on homes built before 1994, kind of like before Hurricane Iniki. The homes before it wasn't mandated. So everything after this is all mandated. You have to have hurricane clips. It's code. You can't pass inspections without it. So yeah, a lot of homes failed because they didn't have all these hurricane clips that hold everything together. Loose debris that can damage homes or fly through a window into the home, and roof leaks that can cause drywall damage. Okay, tips to remember. Store inventory is limited, so don't wait for the last minute. You know, once you hear a hurricane coming, you should actually go get it because it's going to run out. It takes approximately about 6 weeks to get supplies here on the barge. So hurricanes, you can hear maybe 2 weeks out, you can start going and actually getting stuff already. Items that run out quickly would be plywood, flashlight, batteries, bottled water. I even saw, I think this last time, generators. Nobody had generators. Generators are sold out. What can you do to secure your home and property? Secure loose debris objects. Clean your gutters. Loose debris would be anything around your house, like surfboards, even your kids' toys, anything that the wind can pick up and fly through your window. Install new hurricane clips. Nowadays, they have, for the homes that are already built, they have retrofitted clips that you can put on, that you don't have to go breaking into the walls and installing all these new clips, yeah? Take care of install window clips to protect them from the flying debris. That's the main thing. Hurricane, if you can cover up your windows, because that's where you'll get the most damage. Windows, even your trees, trim your trees that is close to your homes. Take care of known existing problems before the hurricane season, such as leaky roofs. If you know you have a leak, hurricane season is guaranteed it's gonna have a big leak, big problem. Drywall, everything inside of your house, yeah. And trim large trees, particularly branches that may fall on your home.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for sharing that. And, you know, Mike is so full of knowledge. I mean, if you're going to be on a deserted island or something, you want to be with this guy. So I'm really excited to let you know that in the next week or so, we're going to be announcing a workshop that Maui Electric is going to be partnering with Mike and UH Maui College. Mike is an instructor and an apprenticeship coordinator at UH Maui College, and he does construction classes. And so we're going to be partnering up and inviting just a small group. It's going to be very limited, but we're going to have a workshop at UH Maui College on December 7th. And we're going to invite folks to come and learn more about making your home resilient, particularly if you don't have hurricane clips already built into your house. Say you bought your house before 1994, or you bought an older home. You may not have hurricane clips installed in your home. So Mike is going to be able to show you in an actual tiny home, yeah, and to show you how to properly install hurricane clips. And there's so many more different kinds now than when it was first mandated by the state in 1994. So we're going to be able to show you that, how to install window clips and things like that. So we'll be putting that out and announcing that, and we will definitely let Joe know so he can let all of you know the details of this upcoming workshop. If you haven't already, we strongly encourage you to sign up for outage notifications, and you can do this on our website. It's very easy, mauielectric.com, and on the front page you'll see receive outage updates. And you can get outage updates either through email or text or both. And you can also get updates from us through Twitter if you follow us on Twitter. So we really urge you to sign up for this, not just during hurricane season, but any time of the year, because disaster can strike anytime. We also have for you outside, if you didn't already pick one up, is our handbook for emergency preparedness. It's a very comprehensive book on how to be prepared. Every question you can imagine will be answered by this book. And so we encourage you to pick one up. If you prefer to go paperless, it is online on our website and in 5 different languages. maybe one day in Olelo No'eau too, Olelo, Hawaii. Okay. So we do have something for show and tell, but I know we can wait till after the meeting is done, and Mike will be here to show you what, this is just a makeup of the wall of a home and what it looks like when it's properly tied down with hurricane clips. And he can answer all the questions you have about that. So do we have any time for questions or?
Yeah.
Okay, does anyone, actually, before we do that, also we have for you outside is, Chris talked about how we restore power after a storm. This is everything he said in one easy handout. And also another one on how to be prepared for emergencies, including how to be safe around down power lines. So with that, does anyone have a question that we can answer for you?
We've got a storage project in Wailea area. That's kind of a funny end of our transmission system that tends where the voltage drops because of the heavy loads. So there's a battery system over there. It's only 1 megawatt hour. But what it does is it just basically exports during heavy loads to kind of lift that transmission voltage up so we get a little more efficiency. We have another battery system on Molokai, which is basically for frequency response. So that system is very delicate. So little fluctuations over there can actually cause under frequency, damaging equipment, causing breakers to open. So basically, we've got a 2 megawatt battery over there. So when there's something going on with the system over there, it can immediately inject power. Now, that battery may be 2 megawatts, but at 2 megawatts, it only runs for 6 minutes. But a lot of times, it only needs to run for 15 seconds. And then it just picks the system back up, and then the generators take over. We have another big battery up at the Kayaba wind farm. So on the West Maui Mountains, there's actually 2 wind farms up there, even though they look like one big one. The lower one actually has a 10 megawatt, 20 megawatt hour battery. So that's huge. It takes up the building is bigger than this. So it's basically helping us out with the wind farms, so it's controlling their ramping, but it's also helping us out when we get into problems as a utility. It injects power into the system for us. So it basically saves us quite a bit. There's other, for smaller projects for like your homes, we have a new net energy metering program that involves storage, kind of encouraging people to use storage along with their home PV as well. Well, the first one we call is net energy metering. Everyone called it NEM, but that's where the meter kind of, you got basically commercial, you got retail prices for the electricity you're feeding back. Right. So now they've kind of revised that because more of the NEM was an incentive program to get people to put PV on there. So you don't need to incentivize anymore. So yeah. And then now there's a new version. I'm not well versed on the details of the new net energy metering. So they're opening it back up. So people with NEMs or net energy metering, they can increase their system if there's some storage component that needs to go along with it. It's kind of best to kind of read those tariffs individually. I'm not too much sure on the time of use. I just know that they give cheaper daytime rates to encourage people to use it and more expensive evening rates to discourage that use. Typically our times where we're trying to discourage use is about an hour after sunset, where everyone kind of goes home, turns on the lights, starts cooking dinner, everyone's using hot water, and then you can basically see that our load profile just jump up. Midday, so around noontime, it could be down around 100. On a cool day, it could be down to 95 megawatts. And then, boom, we're just turning generator on and generator on until we get to the peak, and it could be anywhere between 180 and 190. So we've almost doubled our load just in that matter of going for like 6 hours.
Great. Thank you very much.
Let's give them a big hand. Thank you very much. For those of you who got more questions for them individually, you can see them after here. We're trying to keep to our schedule. It's 7:30. Those of you brave people who stick through all this, to reward you, we had my little Vanna White here. This is Vanessa Pacheco, who's now working for us, Rescue Tubes of Maui. And you had to look, those of you registered, got your tickets? Got your tickets, so we got 5 of those to award. For those of you who don't know, Kaanapali here is the there are more drownings at Black Rock than it's the second most drownings in the entire state of Hawaii. Happened right here in West Maui at Keika'a. I've been snorkeling out there for 40 years, and I know there's a rip over there that takes you out. And if I wasn't an accomplished swimmer, I would have been drowned and panicking and myself. But I knew what to do to take care of myself. Be calm, don't panic, swim with it, gradually angle yourself towards the side of the ocean. Don't panic, breathe easy, stay calm. Don't fight against it. When you try to fight against the current, you lose. I'm telling you, you can't win. The ocean is the winner, not you. You go with it. Relax. Don't panic. Keep your breath. Go with it and move. Angle yourself a little bit towards the side, towards the shore, and you'll save your life. But we're working hard with Tamara Paulton, the county, and the mayor's office in the state to trying to get another lifeguard tower over there at Keika'a. I mean, we don't want to be known for having so many deaths over here in West Maui. A lot of things we want to be known for, but that's not one of them, okay? So please help us support that. And thank you. I think the West Maui community is the most awesome community there is. I love you guys. If you're not a member of the West Maui taxpayers, why not? I want you to be a member, support us, become part of the solution. If you're not helping us, you're not helping towards the solution. Believe me, we've done things already that no one else has done. No community's done what West Maui community has done in the entire state of Hawaii. Let's don't beat that track. Let's don't stop that. Let's keep that going, and we need your help to keep that going. So join the West Maui taxpayers, help us out, help us with our emergency planning, and together we'll win. We can make a difference, okay? Thank you all very much. God bless you, and aloha.